Welcome to Arthritis Answers. I'm Kendall Jillian, Development Manager for the Arthritis Foundation.
And I'm Jillian Lane. I'm the Community Engagement Director.
And with the Jingle Bell Run coming up in just 2 weeks, we thought we'd talk about running and arthritis. So on December 12th is the Jingle Bell Run. You can register up until the event at packet pickup or event day. But we're going to talk about running and how it could affect your arthritis and some tips.
We'll talk a little bit about why running with arthritis is important, but we'll also kind of talk about some best practices if you have arthritis and you want to start running. So first, why is it good? So for the obvious reasons, like anybody else who's running, it's going to help with your heart and lung health. But in terms of arthritis, it's going to help maintain a healthy body weight as well. So it's going to help you lose weight if you're kind of going through that process, but it's also going to help you keep the weight that you have and keep that healthy weight. So that's really important, especially with osteoarthritis. And then also, it's going to help kind of get those fluids in your joints circulating and moving and making sure that there's healthy levels of that fluid too. So that's going to help reduce the pain that you might have. All right, so when we're thinking about running and arthritis, we also want to consider various modifications. Some modifications that you can consider are shorter strides. It's going to help reduce the load of weight on those weight-bearing joints, so the joints in your knees and your ankles, things like that. On the shorter strides will help kind of reduce that pain that you may incur because of running. And then some other potentially necessary adjustments is just considering your running schedule. When you're running, how frequently you're running. We talked a little bit about form, but there are certain form adjustments that you can make as well. And then considering that running surface. Depending on the surface that you're going to be running on, it may be more forgiving or not. So if you're, for example, running on a trail, a path, a treadmill, versus running on maybe a running track, the different surfaces that you're going to be exercising on can make a difference in terms of the impact and the pain that may come from that too.
I've heard a lot of people who run consistently on like sidewalks and stuff, they feel it in their knees.
Mm-hmm. So if you're considering taking up running, you may want to consider where you're running and the type of surface that you're going to be doing it on. So additional tips, make sure that you have proper footwear. One of the things that we say is that kind of minimalist type of shoe, things like the toe shoe or shoes that kind of emulate that barefoot feeling, may not be tolerable for arthritis. It may incur more pain. So you may want to find a shoe that's a little bit more forgiving than those kinds of shoes. I know they're popular, but it's something to consider when you're either going to continue running or preparing to start running with arthritis. And then again, form is important, so it can help reduce the risk of injury, help reduce that joint pain. So really consider your form when you're looking at taking up running with arthritis.
And I think it's important to go in and make sure you're wearing the right size and the right type for your foot. Kind of like the arch supports that you go in and get, and they can test you for the right one. Going into a professional and getting the right shoe is just as important because it can help your joints.
And there's a lot of, if you go to a running shoe store, a lot of times, they'll be able to help you figure out what's going to be the best option for you and get that right fit. So don't be afraid to ask for help when you're shopping for those shoes.
And sometimes those shoes are a little more expensive, but they'll pay off in the end and over time.
You'll be able to do more running probably. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. And then considering progression. So if you're kind of considering starting to take up running, maybe consider some lower impact activities to start off. So things like biking, swimming, or maybe looking at an elliptical, just because it's going to be a lower impact on your joints to begin with, and kind of get them used to that motion, get them warmed up, if you will, kind of get them in practice.
Especially if you're not one who's exercising currently and you just want to eventually get to that run. You don't want to start out straight, I'm going to run a marathon.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So consider a variety of different options that may be a little bit more impact. And then when you get to the point of running, start gradually. Like you said, don't plan to run a marathon or run 8 miles in your first go. Start little by little, maybe a half a mile, 1 mile, and just build your way up.
Yeah, and there's lots of great plans out there of how to work yourself up to a marathon or a half marathon or even a 5K like the Jingle Bell Run.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, just pace yourself. You don't have to run a marathon in your first go. So some of the resources that we have available, we just released your exercise solution. You can find this on arthritis.org, the website. But essentially, it helps you identify where you have pain. It helps to help you come to a realistic generalization about where you are in your fitness level. So talking about progression and starting slowly, this will kind of help you identify where you're at. But also it'll help with those modifications and help you get started where you are. So figuring out what activities are going to be best for you. So I definitely recommend going to arthritis.org and checking out that. It's called Your Exercise Solution, and it'll help you get started and make some suggestions on what is going to be a little bit more self-paced, a little bit more unique to where you are in terms of starting your exercise routine. And then last but not least, there's always the Arthritis Resource Finder, which is also at arthritis.org. And this way you can kind of, if you want to take up running, but maybe you want to ask a professional some questions about modifications, you can look for physical therapists. You can look for some occupational therapists that might be able to, be that subject matter expert to really get you started if you may be facing a little bit more challenges than the average person.
Yeah, and with any exercise, you should always check with your doctor before you start any new routine, just especially if you have arthritis. They might tell you, well, your arthritis is really bad here, so you want to lean towards exercises that are low impact on that joint.
Absolutely. So they'll be able to kind of direct you in the right direction, so in hopes to avoid any kind of injury.
Yeah, you don't want it to get worse.
So yeah, absolutely. So just use those resources, but always consult with your doctor. So that's kind of all we had for running and arthritis.
When we come back, we're going to talk about the weather and your arthritis. So we're going to take a quick break.
When Margaret and I decided to sell the old estate here, we had only one choice in signage: Logan Street signs and banners. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore, but rather located on 10th Street on the south side of Noblesville. Well, we sold the old beauty, and we were able to buy this wonderful estate. And we had so much money left over, I was able to buy this beautiful 1968 Eldorado Cadillac for Margaret. Only 472,000 miles. Margaret loves it because it's got those big seats and that heavy-duty suspension to support her svelte frame. Next time you're looking for signs or banners, call old Jim at Logan Street Signs and Banners, 773-7200. Conveniently not located on Logan Street anymore.
Everyone knows it's easy to find first-run movies in the big theaters. But where can you go to watch your favorite classic movies on the big screen for the perfect night out? Why rent a flick when you can rent the entire theater? Call today to reserve our 32-seat theater for your next event, or just stop by to see what's showing this weekend. The 14 by 7 foot screen and the high quality digital surround sound system offers all the amenities you would expect from the big theaters, with a laid back atmosphere and comfortable seating of your own home. Wofford Theater at 1744 South 10th Street in Noblesville gives you the classic movies you want with a big theater experience.
Welcome back, and now we're going to talk about arthritis and weather. As the weather is starting to get colder here in Indiana, we thought it would be a topic that you guys would be interested in.
Yep, definitely. And I think that usually when we initially start talking with people, this is like one of probably the most common things. What's the deal with arthritis and weather? And so just to kind of say this at the beginning is that there really isn't much data to support this, and there's research that's been done, but it's been pretty inconclusive. But when you hear something over and over and over again from so many different people, there has to be some kind of truth in it. So we wanted to make sure that we talked about it.
Yeah, and it's different for every person. Some people, it doesn't affect them at all, and other people, they would bet money on it that the weather affects their arthritis.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the biggest things in terms of weather is just kind of keeping an eye on that barometric pressure, particularly falling barometric pressures. Lowering temperatures is another common correlation that we'll see, and then also precipitation. So if there's some kind of rain or snow, that barometric pressure is probably going to change, but usually precipitation is another common correlation that we'll see in terms of arthritis pain and weather. So temperature drop, usually it's going to be about a 10-degree drop when it's most commonly going to be seen an increase in arthritis pain. So if you're keeping an eye on the weather, you may want to prepare for a day that you're going to see that 10-degree difference.
And I don't have arthritis, but I have sinus issues, and I kind of have that same thing. When the temperature drops rapidly, you can kind of feel it in your head. And from what I've heard from people who do have arthritis affected by the weather, they kind of get that same feeling. You just know when the temperature is dropping, and you can feel that pressure.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So just keep your eyes open for that, mainly that 10-degree difference or something near that 10-degree difference will probably be a tell in terms of arthritis pain. So I also wanted to mention the arthritis index, which is at accuweather.com, so ACCU weather.com, and you can this is one of the tools that you can use to plan accordingly or preemptively understand when that barometric pressure change is going to happen. So I definitely recommend taking a look on that. You can find this link on our website as well. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with everybody so that if you did want to really kind of pay closer attention, this is a great tool to use. So other things to keep in mind, in terms of barometric pressure, usually asthma is affected. It may also cause migraines. And so we know, I feel like a lot of folks that we work with, migraines tend to be a common thing that they deal with when they have arthritis. But these are kind of some of the, when we talked about comorbidities in the past, these are kind of some of the other things that may come up or may be affected based on weather. So if you're watching the pressure, if you're watching the weather and you're kind of adopting this practice, if you are affected by arthritis or migraines, these may be another kind of thing that's affected by that. And then I also want to talk about warm water therapy because it is getting cold outside. I kind of felt like it may be a tool that's going to be useful, and who doesn't want to sit in warm water when it's freezing outside? So this is kind of one of the therapies that some folks will use. So I just wanted to give some tips on that. So like I said, it's warm water, not hot water. So you want to keep the temperature between 92 and 100 degrees. We know that a lot of folks use hot tubs and things like that or go to their local gym or spa to kind of use these services to alleviate some of their arthritis pain during the colder months. So just make sure that you keep it between that temperature range of 90 to 100. And you can always ask your facility about that too. They should know. So keep it at that warm temperature. And then also sitting in the warm water and just relaxing is great. But if you really want to capitalize on the benefits of warm water therapy, stretch while you're in there. It's going to help kind of loosen up your joints and give you a little bit more range of motion as you're in the water. It won't be as painful as if you're doing it outside that warm temperature. So get your stretching in while you're in there. You'll probably reap more benefits than you would outside of the water. And then consider finding a warm water pool. I kind of touched on that, but there are a number of facilities throughout the Indianapolis area that offer warm water therapies and pools, and even if you want to just kind of go in and walk around for a little bit and get some movement, there are a number of facilities across Indianapolis.
And the Arthritis Foundation Aquatics program, it is set in a warm water pool. So anybody who offers that program on the Arthritis Finder, you can find those classes, but it's going to be a warm water pool.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be within that right temperature range. And so if you are looking for resources in the community, if it has that arthritis foundation label to it, it's most likely it has to have that temperature range. So so having that stamp of approval is kind of an easy tell. But if you're just looking at general aquatics classes too, just be sure to ask. And like I said, most places are very conscious of that temperature range. So if you ask them, they'll be able to tell you what temperature they keep the pool at. So again, lastly, that resource finder, like Kendall mentioned, it's going to be able to help you find those classes in your local area. There are, rehabilitation centers and things like that on there too, and often those centers will offer warm water classes too. So that's at resourcefinder.arthritis.org, so you can find that and search by your zip code. So yeah, that's all that I really had in terms of weather and arthritis.
And the running information and the weather information you can find on arthritis.org just by doing a little bit of searching.
Yep. If you, I'll just, sorry to interrupt, but there's a top right-hand corner, there's a search bar. So you can search really any topic. So if you want this information in writing, I pulled a lot of the information from the website, so you can find it there if you just search weather or running.
Perfect. And we hope to see you guys all out at the Jingle Bell Run on December 12th. You can register online through noon on the 8th at jbr.org/Indy, or you can register at the Runners Forum on Thursday or Friday of next week, or you can register at 7 a.m. bright and early in the morning on the 12th at Bankers Life Fieldhouse. We'll have a couple thousand people there running for arthritis. They'll be doing a 1-mile walk, a 5K run walk, and a 10-mile run out in the December weather. Some in costumes, Christmas presents, Christmas trees. There's been a guy dressed as Cousin Eddie the last couple of years, so all different varieties of people will be there. We also have a free run with the children. Santa will be there and a live reindeer, so we hope to see everybody there, and we'll see you all again back in February.